Welcome. Today, I'm super honored to be joined by Emmy-nominated Ted Lasso star Nick Mohammed. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, D. How are you?
I'm excellent. Where are you at right now?
Oh, just at home. Just at home in London. We just had a little baby daughter a couple of weeks ago, and so I can't be with the cast in the States at the moment, but I'm able to do a lot virtually, which is good.
Congratulations. Your first kid?
No, actually, our third.
Okay. Oh, so I can get some lessons from you. I have one daughter. She's 3 years old. She runs my house.
Yes, yeah. We got two boys as well. So yeah, no, we're very lucky.
Congratulations. And congrats on the new season. Are you ever surprised by the show's success?
Constantly, yes. I find it just quite overwhelming, really. I still, am trying to sort of get used to the fact that, people recognize me in the street and, want to talk about it, in particular Nate's storyline. Yeah, it's quite mad.
You feel like people they just run down on you while you're having dinner and they just start talking about Nate storylines or
Yeah, and social media, does its thing as well. So that's that's always fun.
the show Ted Lasso is so it's known for these big ideas, wholesome, attempting to inspire us to see the greater good. We see that in Nate's arc, especially when he got his promotion. But Nate kind of went dark in season two. Without giving too much away, what can we look forward to in season three?
Well, I guess we know that Nate has defected from AFC Richmond and he's joined West Ham, the rival team, and Rupert is his boss. And I think we all know that Rupert is not a leader of people. He is a very toxic force in everyone's lives, and so I think we can anticipate that it's not going to be plain sailing for Nate being under Rupert's command. And obviously, there's unfinished business between Nate and Ted, Nate and AFC Richmond, even Nate and his dad. I think we can, not that I condone Nate's actions in season two, but I feel like you can see where they're coming from. I think you can see that they ultimately stem from a toxic relationship he has with his dad and these sort of deep-seated insecurities that he's had his whole life. And, he's not a different person, isn't he? He's the same person. He's just been given a little bit more power and he's, chosen sadly to use that power in quite sort of bullish ways. So yeah, there's quite a lot of reckoning to be had in season three, but I won't give away any more other than that.
Tell us what was it like when you first got that script and you're like, oh shit, what is going to happen?
Well, when I remember really distinctly getting the first episode, which is dropped today, of season three, and thinking, oh, I wonder if they're going to redeem Nate. And then I read it and I was like, nah, they're doubling down on how nasty he is. That's good. So yeah, but it's thrilling and it's really exciting reading those scripts and following everyone else's storylines too, because I'm a genuine fan of the show as much as anyone else.
The relationship between Ted and Nate was beautiful, and some fans were even angry that Nate left Ted, but Ted also wasn't being the person that Nate needed him to be. So do you feel like Ted's getting what he deserves?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I think Nate says at the end of season two that he feels abandoned by Ted. But Ted is actually sort of blissfully unaware of Nate's downfall until maybe end of episode 11, actually, when he finds out that he's said to the press about Ted having panic attacks. And so I feel like Nate's behavior is completely out of order. But because Nate has never had a father figure in his life, he doesn't really have a support network. He doesn't really have friends. He doesn't have a girlfriend, boyfriend. And so when Ted did come into his life in season one, we saw how it empowered him and made him feel worthwhile. And, obviously that resulted in him being promoted. And that was the best thing that had ever happened to him. So I guess from Ted's point of view, he feels like, oh, Nate is not fixed, but his work is done, as it were. But actually, Nate is a lot needier, sadly, than that, and is a troubled soul, and he's not getting the praise that he once had, He has more responsibilities. He doesn't really know how to use that power because he's never had any before. And so, yeah, it's a real recipe for disaster for Nate because he just doesn't really have the, I guess, the emotional intelligence to deal with any of it.
But that's the problem with these big personalities like Ted, right? You make everybody feel so good, and you make everybody feel seen and cared for. And then the minute you start to have these human moments where you can't be the biggest cheerleader or the person who lights up every room, people can easily feel slighted.
Completely. I mean, and Ted, bless him, has got his own demons, right? He's got his own personal things to deal with, and his family life is obviously fractured. He's dealing with panic attacks and anxiety, and so he's got to concentrate on it himself, and that's why it's such a shame that Nate sees that as abandonment, where actually it's just he should be looking out for Ted really, but he's not.
And then Twitter isn't helping Nate at all.
No, that's why I try and stay off Twitter as well when the show is out, because otherwise there's too much of an element of art imitating life, because people are really hating on Nate at the moment, and rightly so. But if I start to scroll on Twitter, I'm like, I know that's what Nate does in season 2, so I should stop.
I also feel like a lot of us, we feel like Ted Lasso is a feel good show, and I think your character has been developed as one of the best. And even though he's polarizing to fans, is it a challenge to play a guy who so many fans take issue with?
I mean, if anything, it was just really. Honestly, it's been really thrilling. I mean, it was challenging in a sense that I felt like season 1, Nate, I knew what I was doing. I knew how to get look, the scripts are brilliant, and I'm just indebted to the scripts because they've written such a really nuanced arc, and really sort of slowly drip fed throughout the 3 seasons really. I felt like I had some kind of comfort area in the way I was sort of portraying Nate in season 1, but a lot of the comedy, to be fair, then was replaced by more emotional and dramatic storytelling in season 2 and in season 3. Now that he's taken a slightly a darker turn, and so that was more challenging just because I had less experience in that.
Well, I think as well as that character who has the ability to do that is always going to be the one that's remembered.
That's very kind. Well, yeah, we'll see what you think at the end of season 3.
Me, I'm 10 years from now. Like, you don't always remember the person who didn't rebel rouse a little, right? You kind of forget that person, but the person who stirs everything up is the one who we'll be talking about forever. Ted Lasso has mastered the balance between humor and drama. The show is casted beautifully, and you guys execute. You do what you got to do with those scripts, and this is why the show is such a hit. What's the secret?
I honestly think it comes down. I mean, the casting. I think Theo Park has done like a phenomenal job of just, also just the loveliest bunch of people. We feel so lucky to go into work and get to work with these just brilliant people, but also just wonderful humans. I feel like the scripts, we just owe it all to the scripts. The writing and the writing team, they're just phenomenal. To be able to to play a supporting role in an ensemble show, but that gets to go through proper kind of character development is quite rare. It was certainly rare in UK shows, or in terms of my previous experience. Often if you're playing a supporting role, you're kind of the constant in the show, and your major players are the ones who kind of bounce off you, and they get to sort of develop and grow. But it's not just Nate in Ted Lasso. It's it's every character gets their own story, and I just think the writing somehow still manages to balance that tightrope of delivering on, well, comedy, first and foremost, it's a comedy, but like you say, emotional storytelling and dramatic storytelling as well. And so it really is triple threat. And I don't think that's an easy thing to do. Often one of those things would feel sacrificed, but they somehow manage to walk that tightrope. It's amazing.
It's not easy, but it's like real life, because we don't laugh all of the time. And if we're lucky, we're not crying all of the time. You know what I mean? But you have that balance. So it kind of pulls at those emotional strings and gives you an opportunity to have a real experience.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's the other thing, is that the characters feel, as a result of it not sort of shying away from, an emotional moment when it needs to, and it never feels gratuitous, but it ultimately just makes it all feel realistic, and it makes the characters feel real, and that they've got depth. They're not just sort of superficial characters that you might find in a poor sitcom. And really, I mean, there's some sitcoms which do character development brilliantly, but it feels like they've really got a hold of these characters, and they feel like proper fleshed out human beings.
So it's been said that this may be the last season. Is that true?
I genuinely don't know. I mean, I've read all manner of things now. All I know is that nothing official has been said either way. I know that there was a bit of a frenzy online maybe last week when Jason said, yeah, maybe, but he didn't say that it was ending. I mean, there are so many different ways that it could go. I think they've been really open right from the start in saying we always had like a 3-season arc for this particular story, but I don't mean this is a spoiler, but no one dies in it.
The fans, we want at least 2 more seasons. So right. We want to make sure you're down for 2 more seasons, just in case you get that phone call.
Okay. Well, I'll put that to them.
I read somewhere that you haven't spent that much time in America. Would you be willing to move to America to work on a television show?
My wife is in the background and she's nodding her head, so I guess yeah. I mean, we'd have to take the kids out of school, so it would be a big upheaval. But if it was the right kind of show, I don't think we'd say no. But for now, I like where we live, and it's nice to kind of pop over to the States. I've not been many times to the States, but I've always loved it when I've gone over. But yeah, who knows? Never say never.
Yeah, come work on a show over here. We'll make sure you have a great time. I watched Mr. Swallow. I know Ted Lasso was developed by Americans, but a lot of your comedy career has been in the UK. Do you think there's a difference between American and British humor?
It's a really good question. I don't know is the answer. I mean, I feel like there are so many shows. I think you could look at it in a kind of quite a black and white way and say, oh yeah, Americans don't get sarcasm or something like that. But I mean, it's just nonsense, because then you look at so many of the great American comedies, which is sort of cynical and stuff, of course. And so, or that, British comedy is, I don't know, uptight and clipped or something and socially awkward. But I feel like there's so much crossover now, not just in terms of lots of transatlantic productions, Ted Lasso being one of those, obviously, Intelligence, which is a show I write, being another. But, there are shows that are, I guess, quite quintessentially British, which do brilliantly over in the States, and also shows that are quintessentially American that do brilliantly over here. And so I don't think it's black and white. I think actually if something's funny, I mean, everyone can have different tastes within, what they find particularly funny. But I think, humor, comedy, it's just so universal. I think if something's funny, it's funny. And yeah, whether it's to your taste or not, that's a different matter. But I don't necessarily see it being defined by where you live.
I've worked on a television show, and it was always like 2 or 3 cast members that I like to hang out with. After we finished those long filming days. Did you make any connections with anybody on the crew, or was it like, I'm done shooting, I'm getting out of here?
Oh well, I mean, we're all a big unit. I mean, partly because Ted Lasso now we've been filming for the last 3-4 years, and I mean, particularly we sort of all went through the lockdown sort of together when we were filming season 2. That was proper lockdown. We felt very lucky to be working, and they became our bubble, our social bubble, because you weren't allowed to be socializing outside of anything else like work, and so we're a very, very close unit, cast and crew. We've got such a pretty much all the crew stayed from season 1 right through to the end. And so, yeah, when it came to those like final few days, it was properly emotional, because these are people that you're sort of sometimes seeing more than your own family, when you're filming long hours and, filming week on week and season on season. So yeah, it's a great bunch. But we're all still in touch. There's lots of WhatsApp groups. We all hang out for a drink, and obviously there's a lot of them who are in the States. But it's fun when we get together. It's always a laugh. So yeah, I feel very lucky.
So from the pilot, we know that Ted's the best dancer, but who's the most athletic?
Oh, interesting. Who's the most athletic? Oh, it's probably someone like Phil Dunster or Christo, those footballers. They've got, I mean, Billy, Tahib, Collar, they're so great because they, also, and one thing I never really appreciated was that when you're filming those football sequences, they're doing take after take after take, and it's exhausting. I think even more exhausting than actually playing a football match because you're kind of going at it full pelt for the camera, and then they'll call cut, and you have to, stop, relax, or retake, or reset. And so you don't, it's almost like interval training, sort of stop, start nature to it. And so the stamina that they have to sort of build up, for some of those long football shoots is something. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, probably Phil or someone like that.
Who's most like their character?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, Jeremy Higgins. Jeremy and Higgins are very similar, I think. Really nice people. Both of them, very nice people.
Great. And what's the most American thing that Jason does?
The most American thing he does is he's really into like pinball machines.
Okay,
Like
okay. I,
that
I,
was American.
I was scared you were going to say something like he eats a donut sandwich. The show's amazing. Season 3 comes out today. Thank you so much for coming on. What's next for you?
So I've just finished a show called Renegade Now, which is on Disney Plus. I think not till October, to be fair. It's quite later on. And I shot a film last year called Maggie Moore's with John Hamm and Tina Fey, which I think is out in July, which John Slattery directed, who's brilliant and wonderful. So that was a real joy. And yeah, I'm about to do some more live stuff as Mr. Swallow, which is like my alter ego on stage. And so yeah, and might possibly bring that over to the States at some point.
Yeah, bring it over here. We're looking forward to it. We're going to support. Thank you so much. And again,
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Take care.